Yes, hello folks. Welcome to Global Football Show. I'm your host as always, Phil Brown, joined with my regular co-host, the excellent Zach Lowy. Zach, how you doing, my friend?
Doing very well, Phil. Got a lot of stuff to discuss today, so
We sure
very
do.
excited for this week's Global Football Show.
The one thing we won't be talking about is the FA Cup final. We'll
Who
leave.
won that? I didn't catch
Don't
the
matter, man.
result.
I don't know. I don't even like football. We'll talk a lot about, of course, so much been happening in the world of football with Kareem Benzema's move to Saudi Arabia, which is eye-watering numbers. Ibrahimovic finally announces his retirement at 41 years of age, which is truly remarkable. And Lionel Messi possibly going back to Barcelona. I want to get your opinion on that. We'll take a quick look ahead at the Champions League final. We'll take a chat about some of the signings that could happen this summer, and of course, and Postecoglou's move to Spurs and what Spurs fans should expect from him. We'll start, mate, with the news that Lionel Messi, as we've known, is going to leave Barcelona, or is going to leave PSG. His father, Jorge Messi, has come out and said that he would like him to go back to Barcelona. This has very it has a lot of similarities to me to the Ronaldo back to Manchester United, where it's an emotional move, not a logical one. There's an old saying in football, never go back. I understand Messi's heart is in Barcelona. It take an enormous amount of money to bring him back. But does it make sense?
It's a great question. Um, Look, on the one hand, I think that, as a lover of the beautiful game, I would rather see Lionel Messi return to Barcelona and close out his career than close out his career at Inter Miami or somewhere in Saudi Arabia.
Hmm.
And I do understand that, yeah, let's face it, Barcelona have won the title. I don't want to say by playing ugly football, but they've certainly pulled off a lot of 1-0 wins, and it was clear that they won it because of their historically great defense, and in spite of an attack that yeah has struggled in terms of creativity. And I think that Barcelona fans, what they might say is, well, look, he's obviously an upgrade on the likes of Rafinha, Ousmane, Fati, Ferran, and he would join for free. I would understand that, but I also think that you have to consider the wages. Messi is not going to play for free. Even if he does accept a severe wage reduction, I do think that in a way, if I were Barcelona, I'd be looking at other options. I get
Mm-hmm.
the sentimentality of it all. I get that he's the greatest player of all time, but I just think that the band-aid has already been taken off.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to go back and try to fit something in. I would take. I do think that it is slightly different though when you compare Messi and Ronaldo. I mean, there's just a 2-year difference between when Messi left and when he's potentially returning. Ronaldo, there was what, a 10-year difference, probably more than that. So I think that Messi, he would certainly provide quality in attack, and I think that from an emotional standpoint, yeah, it would be great to see. With that being said, though, Barcelona have a lot of ongoing financial issues right now they have to deal with, and in my opinion, they have more pressing needs than bringing back Messi, and
Yeah.
which would obviously implicate giving him one of the highest salaries in the wage bill. So I can definitely see both sides of it, but I just think that you look at Barcelona's current squad. There are a lot more urgent priorities, whether that's finding an actual right back, finding a replacement for Sergio Busquets, finding a natural winger. I think all of these would be bigger priorities, and I also think that Xavi's success at Barcelona was due in large part to their defensive setup. Going with this, shall we say, an asymmetrical midfield where you have field you playing on the wing, and I think in part as well due to what we saw off the ball. in terms of their pressing, in terms of their setup, and their ability to protect defense. Obviously, Marc-Andre Ter Stegen gets a lot of credit for that because of his fantastic performances in goal. But I think that as well, we've seen a drop off from Barcelona in recent weeks, in recent months, when they were out of Europe, and when they lost to Real Madrid in the Copa del Rey semifinals. And I think in large part of that was, yes, they knew that they were going to win the title. They took the pedal off the gas. But I also think that it's due in part to a decrease in energy in terms of pressing, in terms of winning the ball back in dangerous areas. And I'm not sure if you can accommodate both Messi and Lewandowski in that system. I think that
Oh,
trying to accompany both of them would certainly come at a cost. And we've
okay.
seen that
Yeah.
with Paris Saint-Germain, right? With Messi, Neymar, Mbappe, out of those three, Neymar probably does the most work off the ball, but he certainly isn't a grifter, shall we say, right? So Barcelona, they need to take these things into consideration, right? And I do think that as well. One of the biggest reasons why we saw Rafinha going from kind of an underwhelming signing in the first few months to actually stepping up and having an important role in the second half was because of that really renewed defensive commitment and work rate. So I have a lot of concerns over Messi's potential fit. I would like to see it happen in terms of sentimentality, but I'm not so sure it would be the right decision for Barcelona,
Yeah.
both in terms of off the pitch, when you look at when you look at it in terms of the finances, as well as on the pitch.
I'll tell you where I see the similarities, Zach. Now, obviously, like you quite rightly said, there's 2 years between Messi leaving and coming back, and Ronaldo there was a decade. But where I see the similarities is one, we don't know the impact bringing Messi back will have on the Barcelona dressing room. Will it destabilise the dressing room, right? Because all of a sudden there's another player coming back in who's now the focal point of everything that the football club does. That had a destabilising effect on Manchester United's dressing room, no question. The season before they finished second, and this was a vanity signing. Emotionally, I understood it. I was on board. Secondly, one of the things that really held Manchester United back was living in the past and not moving on from a previous era and not trying to get the next Ronaldo, right? Not trying to get the next generation that was constantly trying to recreate Sir Alex Ferguson's past, constantly trying to recreate a past where they were successful, and constantly looking back. Barcelona have to move on from Lionel Messi. They have to develop a new identity and not try to go backwards because, like you quite rightly said, they pulled off the band-aid. And
I do think it's in part short term versus long term planning, right? I think that Messi
yeah,
would be an upgrade in their options right now over Ousmane,
I think
Fati,
there's another
etc.
factor in
But
this, Zach,
yeah,
that's similar. When
yeah,
Ronaldo came back, Ronaldo was playing with a team for a teammate in Solskjaer. If Messi comes back, he'll be playing for a teammate in Xavi. And sometimes that can be hard. If you were in a dressing room where the dynamic was you were a more dominant personality or whatever than the person you are now working for, it's difficult for someone to then adjust their personality and adjust their attitude and start taking orders from someone that they would never have done during their playing career. Now, Xavi was a great player, legend, no question. But sometimes that dynamic can be hard. And I'm just not sure Barcelona should be trying to recreate a past. Surely they should be trying to move on from that past.
yeah, I completely agree. I think that once the band-aid is off, you just gotta keep it off. You don't want to put it
Yeah.
back on, right? And uh, and yeah, as you completely mentioned, I mean, the fact is, as nice as it would be in terms of an emotional standpoint to see him come back, I just think that Barcelona, they would be much wiser going for a younger option,
Mm.
who may not necessarily be on a free transfer, but is going to be on probably significantly lower wages, and somebody who can kind of who you wouldn't have to necessarily build the team around, who's somebody who you could plug into that hole. Because I think it is clear that, as much as right back and defensive midfielder have to be two big priorities for Barcelona this summer, I think that, they need a lot of work in attack because there's just been not enough creativity, not enough, players who are going to be able to open up these deep blocks with their through balls and their passes. So that's something where Messi could fit in, of course. But yeah, I agree with you. I just think that the sequel is never as good
Mm.
as the original, even if that's the greatest footballer of all time. And I just think that Barcelona, they are going to they could very well come to regret it if they do bring back Messi.
I agree. All right, let's move on. Let me talk to you about another Spanish, I suppose, French legend that played in Spain, which is Karim Benzema. A bit of back and forth over the last few days about will he or won't he. First of all, I think it broke on Friday that he was leaving. The next day, it came out and said no, he was staying, and now he's leaving again. The numbers are eye-watering. 603 million I read for 3 seasons. I think he's been a brilliant striker. I was asked a question by a friend of mine out here who's not a massive football fan. He's just really starting to get into it. Now, we were talking about the Karim Benzema. And he asked me an interesting question. He said to me, in his prime, was he as good as Haaland? Where would you rate him? My answer was, not as good a goal scorer, but probably a better all-round player. So I think, where would you rate Karim Benzema in the pantheons of greats? Is he in that class? And do you blame him for leaving?
First of all, I don't blame Benzema for leaving. I think that, you know, I was talking actually to my friend Miguel Quintana, who asked Benzema that question at the Marca ceremony. Are you going to talk about your future? And he said, like, why would I talk about my future if I'm in Madrid? Internet is not the reality. And he was convinced that Benzema was going to stay, as was I. But I think that, well, I was thinking that there might be a chance that he'd stay for one more year and then join Saudi Arabia. Footballers do have finite careers, and 3 years, $643 million dollars. To end on that, end your career at what 38 years old with that money. I mean, that's generational wealth.
Yeah,
Right
yeah,
there.
no,
And we're talking about a player who came through, who developed in the slums of Lyon,
Mm-hmm.
came through
Yeah,
his boyhood club,
I get it.
won titles with them, got to move to Real Madrid, and yeah, has been through a lot, has had a lot of controversies, has probably underwhelmed at the international level, despite the fact that he's the fifth all-time top scorer for France, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that, yeah, Benzema, from his point of view, it's very hard to turn down that kind of money, especially when you've got a family to support and friends who obviously he's still very close to in the Lyon area. And I think that of course he's earned that right, just like Ronaldo earned that right to go to Saudi Arabia. Is it a downgrade in going from Spain to Saudi Arabia? Undoubtedly, but I do think that from Benzema's perspective, he doesn't have anything left to prove, right? And I think that he definitely has to be considered amongst the all-time greats. I think that yeah, he may not be as much of a pure goal scorer as Erling Haaland, but I think that he's a better all-around footballer. And
Mm.
I think that the array of qualities in his locker is just outstanding. I mean, he's the ideal target man, brilliant header of the ball, so good at just holding the ball up under pressure, making it stick, and filtering it through. I think that the pass to Isco in that Champions League semifinal against Atletico, I still maintain that's probably the greatest assist I've ever seen. I mean, that is just
You're a young
absolutely
man.
fantastic,
You're a
and
young
that's
man. I've
but
seen some of
that's
those.
Okay, well look, I don't care if you've seen like players in the '60s when people were showing up drunk and
In
you
the
know
60s, I wasn't even alive in the 60s. How dare you?
all right, '80s. Okay, but you can't
So
deny
imagine
that.
doing that drunk. Benzema did that sober. Imagine doing that
Yeah,
drunk.
but you're doing it against defenders who are drunk, so I don't know if
Yeah, so we're also, it's all equal.
listen. Let's not piss around. Okay, Benzema is one of the greatest center forwards of all time. Okay, and this is somebody who I think always had to play a supplementary role. But in many ways, to how Mohamed Salah, as good as he is and as good as he's been for Liverpool, his success does not happen in large part without Roberto Firmino kind of working, behind the shadows and doing that work in the false nine role. I think that in many ways, Ronaldo and Bale's success does not happen without Benzema playing that central fulcrum role, and he was just everything that Real Madrid needed during that spell where they really ripped the where they, shall we say, they snatched Barcelona's chain and were able to become the kings of Spain and the kings of Europe, winning on multiple occasions. And so I think that there were a lot of times where you debate, oh, is Benzema the best center forward in the world? Is it Suarez? Is it Aguero? Is it Lewa? Is it Cavani? Is it Zlatan? But
It's a fair
I
roast.
and it's a fair question, but I think that you plug in someone like Suarez or Aguero into that Real Madrid team, I don't think you get the same results because Benzema, he was just perfectly suited for Real Madrid in terms of that, center forward role, in terms of playing as that target man, holding up the ball and working in perfect tandem, and also, somebody who has an incredible array of finishes. And I also think that one thing that's interesting is you could really argue that Benzema's prime came when he was in his mid 30s. He completely stepped up following Cristiano Ronaldo's departure, following Gareth Bale basically becoming a full-time golfer in his final few years at Real Madrid. And he was not only a key part of that system, he was the system both under Zidane and Ancelotti. Um, and I think that's what I'll remember most from him. This is somebody who stepped up, and and I think just delivered time and time again in the big games. Last season, what we saw from Benzema in the Champions League, I think that is right up there in the pantheon with one of the greatest individual campaigns in Champions League history. There were some times where he was really putting the team on his back, and with all the great work that the likes of Courtois, Vinicius, and Modric did, he was very much leading the line and just really putting the team on his back. So yeah, I think that Benzema he leaves on a high note. I think that obviously would have been great to win another league title and the Champions League, but despite the fact that he's had a decline in production, he's still scored what I believe 30 goals in all competitions. By far, Real Madrid's top scorer, the second top scorer in La Liga to Lewandowski, and became scored a hat trick against Barcelona in El Clasico.
He did.
Got to
His last one.
captain the club that he always dreamed of captaining this season, and yeah, I think that. I'm not sure if I'd say the time is right because I do think that Real Madrid are going to have to work very hard to find somebody who is on, Benzema's level. But with that being said, you can't deny that paycheck is
No,
generational wealth right there.
it's another conversation about whether him and Ronaldo deserve criticism for taking money from the Saudi PIF fund.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
another podcast in itself. So we don't have time to get into that today, but we've done that before. So
And
I
I
want to ask.
also think that Benzema, what we saw at the World Cup, I think that definitely played a big role in his decision. I do think there was something behind the scenes between him and Didier Deschamps, and I think that obviously he wasn't pleased with his treatment, and yeah, he didn't even show up to the World Cup final, and obviously retired from international duty afterwards. So I think that in his mind, he's thinking, I'm never going to play for France again. So, why do I need to care about what club I'm playing at? And
No.
also, I mean, any club that you go after Real Madrid is going to be a downgrade. So, I can't blame him for, deciding not to go to somewhere else in Europe. I mean, I think he would have maybe considered Lyon, but no need for that when Lacazette is in sensational form. So yeah, I think that going to Saudi Arabia, it does make sense for him at this point in his career. He's going to get a very hefty paycheck, and yeah, I think that he's done everything he needs to do at Real Madrid.
Right, let me ask you about Ibrahimovic. 41 years of age. He was still playing professional football. I'd let my kids play with a toaster in the bath at 41 if it meant I didn't have to get up. But unbelievable what he has done. I remember asking Mourinho a question in the press conference when United were here in 2016. And Ibra had just done his knee at the time. And I had asked Mourinho about whether United were going to extend his contract and keep him on for a second year, because he'd had a year contract with an option of another year. And to be honest, I was thinking at that time, this is pretty much the end, right? I mean, he's 34. He's just had a major cruciate knee injury. It's going to keep him out for 7 months. Never did I think 7 years later we'd still be talking about Ibrahimovic playing at a very highest level, playing for a football club that came within a whisker of getting the Champions League final. A remarkable professional. I spoke to his agent a few times, Rafael Pimenta, and she holds him in the very highest professional regard. He is a consummate professional, works exceptionally hard, holds those around him to very high standards, and has been on a one-man wrecking machine tour of Europe, where everywhere he went, he was successful. He backed it up, and he was brilliant at United when he came. I didn't think that there was another 7-8 years in him, to be honest, but he's been brilliant everywhere. And I'll tell you something, Zach, it takes an awful lot to come out here at 38, 37, 38, then go back and play at the very highest level in Europe. The type of hunger that you need, that arrogance, self-confidence that he had, just a truly remarkable athlete.
100%. I mean, one of the greatest players of the 21st century, and he's somebody who just exudes character and confidence. Strikers back themselves. That's how the saying goes. But Zlatan backs himself to the maximum. This is somebody who really came up from a poor area in Sweden, and came through the ranks at Malmo. Then he was impressing at Ajax, made the move to Juventus, Inter, and Milan, and wherever he went, he scored goals, and he just, I think, showed a ability that is so unique, and that is, I don't think there's a single Zlatan in today's game. I don't think there's ever going to be another Zlatan, because the way he moved with the ball for a man of his size and strength, just absolutely outstanding. So many incredible goals, such as that phenomenal goal against England back in 2012. So many incredible goals, and somebody who went to Paris Saint-Germain and helped them establish an identity. I mean, he was the player that the system was built around. Just an incredibly gifted footballer who is somebody who transmits that confidence and poise to younger players in the locker room. Just a legendary career, and yeah, I completely agree. I mean, he did have a successful time at United. That's undeniable. But when he suffered that knee injury, I thought that it was it for him. And what did he do? He went to MLS. He scored a ton of goals as usual for the Galaxy. Went to Milan and was just essential in transforming the club's ethos and in getting them over the line and getting them back to the Champions League, getting them to to win their first Scudetto in a decade. And yeah, obviously has not been able to play that much this season, but he ends his career at a club where he is loved and a club where he will always be appreciated. So yeah, I think that he's just a phenomenal footballer who is I think he has an otherworldly talent, but with that being said, he's also the personification that talent, when, as the saying goes, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, and he had it both. He had the ability to just blitz, just accelerate past 4 or 5 different players without losing the ball. But he was also somebody who continued to strive for excellence, continued to hold himself to the highest standard possible, and that's why we saw that longevity. He's somebody who never took the easy way out, never took any shortcuts. It's a shame that he's not going to end his career with the Champions League, but you look at the amount of
Yeah, it's
trophies he's
incredible.
won in across Europe. It's just incredible. So I think that Zlatan, he's just a larger than life figure, and he's somebody who I think nobody is ever going to forget what he did on the pitch.
Yeah, true. I completely agree. Yeah, absolutely fantastic player. Okay, Ange Postecoglou is going to Spurs after doing another treble with Celtic. Been a resounding success at Celtic. He's bought well. The fans love him. Very popular. He plays very attractive football. I can understand why he wants to leave Celtic. I mean, they have complete domination, and he's got nothing left to prove there. I understand that. Tottenham is a risky job, and if it goes wrong for Ange Postecoglou at Chelsea, at Tottenham, sorry, he's going to have to rebuild his reputation a bit at a lesser club. Um, we know about the structural problems behind the scenes at Tottenham. We know how difficult it is to be successful there. It's a big football club, of course. They're not in Europe next season. He has a huge job on his hands, just like most other managers have had over the last couple of years, in trying to convince Harry Kane to stay. One, I think Harry Kane is in Matt Letizia territory, where he really has to decide if he wants to stay at Spurs the rest of his career. That's fine. You can be admired for your loyalty, or if you want to win things, you have to leave. You have to decide. I mean, if he looks at Kieran Trippier, he looks at Kyle Walker. How's he not
Eric
envious?
Lamela.
Yeah, like yeah, good point, Lamala. So in Europa League, how would you not be envious? I mean, surely you want to win things, but also I commend the fact that maybe he wants to remain loyal to the club, to his boyhood club. Okay, so he has a big decision to make on his hands, but I would say that for Spurs, Postecoglou fits the profile of the type of manager they should be hiring. He's a developmental manager. He's fine with working with young players. That's what he had to do at Celtic. And if they're patient with him, they have an opportunity to maybe make something work with him. I don't think he'll get in the top four next season, because I think Tottenham are a bit off that. But what do you think of that appointment?
I think it's a really good appointment, honestly. I mean, look, this Tottenham job is not that attractive, right? There's a
Mm.
reason why the likes of Arne Slot and Julian Nagelsmann, wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Above all, what they need to do is they need to sort out Harry Kane's future, okay? Are they going to sell him to Real Madrid? Are they going to keep him for another year? This cannot be hanging over their transfer activity, and above all, hanging over Postecoglou when he's taking all of these press conferences. He can't be responsible with answering to this. They need to sort it out, and they need to convey it to the coach, the fans, everybody around Tottenham Hotspur. Because right now it's just a cloud that is really affecting the club. So yeah, I think that obviously Tottenham. Let's face it, they're at rock bottom at the moment, right? Missing out on European football for the first time
Mm.
in 13 years, played some absolutely diabolical football, barely able to keep a clean sheet. So, we're going to see, I think, a few players leave. I think Hugo Lloris has stated that he wants to leave.
Yeah.
Harry Kane may end up joining him. but it's clear that Tottenham need a rebuild. So whatever happens next season, it needs to be a wash. Okay, anything above 10th is fine. Okay, for Tottenham. I
You think
mean,
so?
look, this is a club that just finished what, eighth? I
They were
mean,
fourth when
wait,
they sacked Conte.
okay, but what does that mean? Like, I mean, the fact
I
is,
mean,
look,
Conte's remit
Tottenham,
this last season, Zach, was to make sure Spurs finished in the top four. That was how
and
they
he did.
bought.
Okay,
I'm not saying that's what he was
yeah,
supposed to do this season. He didn't think
yeah,
that could happen, which is why he left. It would be a
yeah, I'm
surprise to
aware.
me, and I don't think that he will finish top four. I agree with you, but I'm not sure that a top 10 finish would be a success for Spurs. I actually
No,
think in some
I'm not.
ways
I'm
being
not
out of
saying
the
he won't.
Europa.
I'm just saying it shouldn't be. I'm just saying, like, if they were to finish like ninth, I don't think it would necessarily be grounds for sacking
I actually
because the
think no,
Premier
yeah,
League,
I agree with that,
yeah,
but I
the
actually
Premier
think
League just keeps on getting more and more competitive.
no, I agree
Okay,
with
and
that.
look, I can see what you mean. I mean, Tottenham historically are a Big Six club, but I'll be honest with you, Phil. I think that like Brentford or Brighton or Fulham are closer to winning a title than or closer to winning a trophy than Tottenham are. Honestly, I mean,
Very
this
possible.
Tottenham side, it needs a lot of work in pretty much every single area besides center forward, and that's if Harry Kane stays.
I actually think
Um,
not qualifying for Europa League will help them.
I agree, or Europa Conference League,
I
whereas
think it actually helps them.
yeah, I know, I completely agree because like whereas a club like Villa, they needed qualification to the Europa Conference League to take that next step. Tottenham, uh, you know, I mean, they can't turn their nose up at Europa Conference League considering the fact that they haven't won a trophy since 2008. But with that being said, now they are only going to play once a week, and that's going to allow them to focus a lot more on the league play. And we've seen that play such a positive impact for so many clubs. Sporting when they won their first league title in 19 years, they were not playing in Europe.
No.
For the majority of the season, whereas Benfica, and Porto were. And we saw that with Chelsea, of course, in their first season under Antonio Conte. But I just think that look, Tottenham, they're a great example of that, saying that a leopard can't change its spots, right? Or a zebra can't change its stripes. Tottenham have tried to be somebody that they're not
Of
over the past
course.
few years, hiring Mourinho, hiring Conte, even hiring Nuno to a degree. This is not a club that is built to be, shall we say, in win first mode, right? They are. I think that they tried to hire these managers with a fantastic track record of winning trophies, but above all, they just didn't have that structure to be compatible. So I think that right now, what Postecoglou is a return to the identity of Tottenham of the past, right? And I think that that identity is above all. Look, there needs to be an identity on the footballing pitch because there just hasn't been that clear cut structure. That it's pretty much just been relying on Kane and hoping that he has enough to make up for your leaky defense. And I just think that uh, I think that Postecoglou will do a good job with that. We've seen that with pretty much everywhere he's been, right? Everywhere he's been, he's won, right? He won the league. I think their first league title in 9 years at Yokohama Marinos. He was able to, I believe, deliver two titles at Brisbane Roar and put together a scintillating brand of football that was called Roar Salona. He was able to win the AFC Cup with Australia. And, yes, he had a shaky start at Celtic, but eventually he was able to win the league title in his first season and deliver the treble there. So obviously there's going to be skepticism from Tottenham fans. This guy, he hasn't coached in Europe apart from a 2-year spell where he was coaching in a two-team league.
So
Essentially,
now it's going to a one team league.
well, okay, yeah, that's a fair point. But um, I just think that I think that the same things that I'm seeing from Tottenham fans about Postecoglou. Some Tottenham fans, not all of them. It's honestly, it's giving me a sense of deja vu because I remember back in 2021 when Ange replaced Neil Lennon, and Celtic fans were saying, "Who the hell is this guy? He's never coached in Europe. Like, we're
Mm.
just getting this unknown guy because So I think that there are a lot of positives from Ange, and I think that you can't just dismiss him based on the fact that he's what 57 and has never really managed in a top league before. Fact is, it takes a lot of effort for somebody in Australia to make their way up to a club like Tottenham Hotspur. Okay, and in the footballing world, that is so heavily predicated on nepotism. Many times it's about it's not about what know, it's about who you know or who
Of
you
course.
played for. So I just think that Postecoglou deserves a chance. He deserves a clean slate, and he deserves time and patience. Because frankly, right now Tottenham are at rock bottom. They need plenty of recruitment, and they need somebody who's going to get the fans on their side again. I think that Ange could be that man. I think that what we've seen at Celtic, he's a very good communicator. He's very good as well at picking out great under the radar players.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's what Tottenham needs. I think Tottenham, they're the kind of club that's going to go to the championship. How many times have we seen Tottenham go to the championship and pick out a promising under 23 player and develop them into a top class professional? We've seen so many of these players such as Kyle Walker and
Yeah.
Kieran Trippier, Harry Kane, Heung-min Son, developing to a fantastic degree. And I just think that they've almost tried to become, shall we say, they've after they were part of those 12 clubs to join the Super League, they've almost started to act like a Super League club. And
Mm.
we saw that last summer to a degree, getting in these big name players who weren't necessarily the best fit. So yeah, I just think that right now Tottenham, they need a rebuild. They need a lot of work in several areas, but I think that Ange can do a great job with that because he's not somebody who's going to be who's going to be demanding the most famous footballers, right? I remember when in his first few months at Celtic, when journalists were asking him, you've brought in, Hatate, Maeda, all these Japanese players. Are you just going to be bringing in Japanese players? And he basically responded like, if I said to a St. Mirren coach, you're only bringing in Scottish players, like how offensive would that be? Fact
Mm.
is, he is somebody who has an eye for talent,
Yeah.
and we've seen so many promising young players really just develop under his tutelage, which I think is definitely a testament to his ability as a talent developer as well as a talent spotter. So yeah, it's clear that Tottenham, they need a refresh, they need a rebuild, and I just think that the expectations cannot be too high. I mean, this is not a team that is immediately built to get back into the top four. And yeah, that should not be what he's judged on. I think he should be judged on what we see from Tottenham on the pitch, and how these young players are going to be developing. Players who have perhaps taken a step back in their development, and yeah, I'm very interested to see what he can do with the likes of Ryan Sessegnon, Yves Bissouma, Richarlison, a lot of players who haven't
Yeah.
necessarily been able to showcase their talent under the likes of Mourinho and Conte. So I think that this is a very shrewd appointment for Tottenham, and I just hope he has a lot of success there because Tottenham are a big club, and this past season has been quite frankly embarrassing. I mean, we would be talking a lot more about it if Chelsea weren't. If Chelsea didn't just have the worst season from any top six team in Premier League history, But yeah, this has been a shambolic campaign for them. They're at rock bottom right now. They need somebody who's going to lead that rebuild, and I think that Postecoglou is that man.
Okay, before you go, let me ask you one quick question. See if you can answer it in a minute or two, because we're short on time. Give me top 3 signings that you think will happen this summer.
Oof, that's a tough question. So, I mean, I guess
What
Manuel
about
Ugarte's
yeah, but 3 that haven't happened. So maybe Randall Colombiani. Do you think he could go? Do you think Osimhen could go?
okay.
Someone like that.
So I think Ugarte to Paris Saint-Germain is close to being a done deal. I guess
Yep.
I'm gonna put him there. I think that that's a great move for them. They need a ball winner. They've been lacking that bite in midfield since Matuidi and Mota have left. So I think that could be a very shrewd pickup for them. As far as other signings, I'm very intrigued to see what Real Madrid do with the center forward position. You know, whether that's Harry Kane or someone else. I have a feeling they're going to make a move for Kane, though. I know that Bellingham is pretty much a done deal, but I think that
Veghorst is available.
I mean,
Something like that.
I don't think that Weghorst is going to be lucky if he even has a kit number at Burnley next season, because I think the way he's going, wouldn't be surprised if he winds
His
up
attitude is. I like his attitude. He wasn't good enough. I agree, but yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. So let me go through number 1. Who would you say would be a big move this summer?
Number 1, I'm going to say Ugarte to Paris Saint-Germain.
Okay.
Number 2, yeah. What were you saying?
I was going to say, so in order of how good you think they're going to be, you think Ugarte's going to be a really good signing for PSG?
I do. I think that he fits a lot of their needs. Let's see, number 2.
Would Colombiani be a good option for Real Madrid?
That's not a bad shout, to be honest. Colomani is definitely going to. I think he's definitely going to leave Eintracht.
A lot of top people that work in football really rate him.
I rate him. I've rated him since he was at Nantes. This is somebody who, was very good in an Eintracht side that was fairly inconsistent. Alongside Jamal Musiala, one of 2 players in the Bundesliga to record double figures in goals and assists. Yes, he's not necessarily a natural target man, but he's very good at dribbling and drifting to areas to pick up the ball. So he's a very crafty finisher and a very good center forward. I'm not sure if Real Madrid would be the best fit for him, but I think that I could certainly see Paris Saint-Germain making a move for him because he is from the Paris area, and I think that it's clear that PSG want a natural center forward with Messi leaving, with Neymar probably leaving. I know that they were trying to get Neymar out off their wage bill, but I could see Colomani going to PSG. We've seen how he links up very well with Mbappe, and I think that would be a really shrewd pickup. But I'm not sure if he goes to PSG, but I do think that he leaves Eintracht. Eintracht are going to be playing Europa Conference League next season. They've already lost their manager, Oliver Glasner. They've lost Daichi Kamada on a free transfer. So I think they'll probably lose Colomani as well. And for my final one, this is a tricky one. For my final one, I'm going. I mean, I like the fit for Real Madrid with regards to Bellingham, but I think that center forward has to be a bigger priority right now. I mean, if they're gonna pay 100 million for Bellingham, I think they gotta pay at least I would not be opposed to paying 90 million for Harry Kane if I'm Real Madrid, to be honest with you. And I think that that would be a great fit for them potentially. I'll go with one that's more of an under the radar shout though. I think that Jonathan David's going to leave Lille this summer. Coming off a 24 goal season for them, and Lille going to be playing in the Europa Conference League next summer. And I think that Lille are a club that typically sells at least one big player each summer, and I think that David would probably be that player. I'm going to say they bring in Gift Orban from Ghent. Actually,
my kid is going to love you for this. It never shuts up about him.
Gift Orban?
Yes, I swear to God, Gift Orban, he really? Never shut. He's like, you need to say. I didn't know who it was until he mentioned to me.
Hey,
He just
we
never
need
steps
to
out of it.
we need to replace you with your kid for the
Yeah,
next
no,
show. I
man, I
think
swear to God, he
he
comes
has a
up with
better
these.
eye for talent.
He said to me, he goes, you need to go after Gift Orban. I'm like, who? He goes, and he
Well,
must have said about 16 times. I'm like, who's that?
I'll
He
tell you
goes, he's
who.
unbelievable.
He's a better player than Anthony Martial and Wout Weghorst. I'll tell you that. But
Yeah.
yeah, he's somebody who. I mean, he's had an incredible story. He's playing in Nigeria just a few years ago. Then
Mm-hmm.
goes to Scandinavia, makes a name for himself there, and leaves Norway and goes to Belgium in January. Yeah, and has done very well, just scoring at an absurd rate. Him and his strike partner Hugo Kuiper has been very good for the club. So yeah, I think that he's going to get a move from Belgium, and I can see. Lille, they love their Belgian players. They found Victor Osimhen from Belgium. They replaced him with another player from Belgium in Jonathan David. So I can see them going back to Belgium and getting Gift Orban. I think that he's a fantastic player. I've watched a good deal of him. He's somebody who has fantastic hold up play and really good passing, and he just can't stop scoring at the moment. I think that I'm very confident in saying that he's going to be the next great Nigerian striker after the likes of Osimhen, Terem Moffi, Kelechi Iheanacho. I think that he has what it takes to go to the very top, and there are few stepping stone clubs that are better than Lille when it comes to finding these raw talents, developing them, and shipping them off to a Paris Saint-Germain, a Manchester United, a Real Madrid. So yeah, I'm gonna say Gift Emmanuel Orban replaces Jonathan David this summer, and is going to end up as one of the top scorers in Ligue 1 next season.
My kid is going to love you for this thing. I'll tell him. I'm on my way to pick him up. I can't wait to tell him. Zachary, all the best, mate. Don't forget, follow this guy at Breaking the Lines at Zach Louis. Fantastic podcast, fantastic content on there. Take it easy, mate, and we'll be back next week. See ya.